Welcome back to another episode of the Headlight Restoration Pro, where I'll be showing you how to take headlights like these and turn them into something more like this. Beautiful, crystal clear, better than brand new, flawless.
Perfect.
Now let's get down to business. This is a 2015 Toyota Avalon. See there, this light is prone to go bad at the top. We're going to go ahead and be starting to attack that top piece here with a P500 sanding disc by 3M. It is one of the best discs on the market. I use all the best products that I have discovered through my trial and error. See how the difference is here? The bottom is nice and smooth, even though it's not 100%. It's 1 out of 10. The bottom is probably a 5 or a 4, and then the top piece is like a 10 in severity of badness. That's just because, like I said a minute ago, that this particular car is prone to go bad at the top of the headlight. And I'm showing you here, you don't always have to use the drill at its highest capacity. Even though it has 2 settings, it has dozens of settings. It just depends how hard you squeeze the trigger. As you see right here, I'm doing more of a slower, more of a grinding motion to get all this damage off the top of the light. These lights on certain vehicles here, as you can see, what I'm working on, this is what I call forward facing, which means it's facing upwards, it's facing the sun all the time. It's forwardly facing the sun all the time. When the sun comes up, the sun goes down. When you're parking at home, when you're parking in a parking lot, when it's dusk or dawn, the sun is generally hitting these areas. That's why they go bad 10 times faster than the other areas on this light. And this car is highly prone. And see that you first want to attack this area before you start in the other area, because you're going to have to take off a lot more material on any spot that is so damaged, or so much drastically more damaged than just a regular part of the light. The bottom part of the light is not is no peach. It's not 100% good, as I said. It's pretty beat up through rock chips or whatever, but in appearance, it's crystal clear compared to the top was. Really choppy, really physical damage, more than likely through years of car washing and sun damage. It had like a crosshatch pattern. It was very rough to the touch, as you saw. I was filling on it in the beginning. So yeah, you want to attack those bad pieces first, or those messed up areas first that are considerably more damage than the others. Why? Because it's going to take longer, it's going to take more material. You have to concentrate and focus and pretty much work harder on those areas. You're going to have to get to a depth that's reasonable. You're going to have to use more time. This other stuff here that is just pretty much just the sealant, the factory sealant that was on it, because these lights have never been restored before, comes off a lot more easier. As you see, I'm not having to spend as much time there. Now with that top piece, you're having to pretty much remove to a certain depth and kind of uniform and smooth out and do all these other things, versus just removing the factory clear coat on this bottom half. So it's a lot more tedious, it takes a lot more skill, takes a lot more time. That's why you want to start with that. And then this way here, you can just kind of uniform everything together with the top. And as you see, the bottom half here, even though it's bigger, it takes a quarter of the time as those top halves or those damage areas, whichever light it is. But there's a lot of lights out there that are quite designed wrong, and it's for looks, not so much for performance. They are designed completely wrong for longevity. Like I say, any light with any forward-facing light, and I tell customers this all the time, that any light that has forward-facing lights, once again, that's surface area of the light that is pointing up or on the top part of the vehicle exposed, those are prone to go bad. And here is my trusty dust blower. It's just modified dust blower, a keyboard dust blower without the extensions and all that stuff. It's rechargeable through a standard C cable, Android C cable. That's how you charge it. It'll last probably a couple vehicles, depending on how vigorously you use it. It really comes in handy. Before I get back into that, seeing that top part there, I just roughed it up a little bit. You don't really have to do those top pieces. You just want to rough it up a little bit to make sure that you, the spray has adhesive at the end, or it's not sticking to a clear piece. But you see that lip right there I'm working on? See how I folded that pad or that disc to get a real firm piece going. When they have a deep lip like this, sometimes the plastic overlaps itself or butts up against itself like a corner molding in a house, and that itself gets yellow. So you have to scrape that stuff off, or you're just kind of a yellow line all the way through the light. But anyways, once again, back to the importance of the air blower. You can get away without doing it, but it's the most efficient way that I've found to keep a sterile work environment. It blows all the dust out. And once again, a quick pause. That is a P800 sanding disc onto the second stage. Pretty much want to work it in like this, nice and smooth. You can see how smooth the little ripples are there, and the little trail behind it. You want to use very light pressure on these steps. On these later steps, just light pressure. On that first step, even light pressure, but not as light. You never want to do heavy pressure on a headlight because you're just going to scar stuff up where you can't get it out as good, or it's going to take a lot of material, a lot of time to remove the damage that you inflicted. And in some cases, as I've had people who've contacted me, they have scarring or scratches when they turn the lights on or underneath the clear coat that they can see. This is primarily from either using the wrong grit sandpaper or more than likely pressure. If you're using these sandpapers and it happens, you're using way too much pressure and it's gouging out the headlights when it's supposed to just be taking off the surface. But anyhow, with the electric blower or any kind of blower, it's important because this kicks up a lot of dust particles that you see everywhere. There's just dust particles everywhere. It's in the engine bay. It's all around the light. It's in between the light. It's on your hands. It's on your towels, all that stuff. So when you have this blower, you can keep your area sterile. And the most important part of keeping it sterile, besides not having to clean up so much at the end of your headlight restoration, is that you don't get orange peel or dust or weird things from you doing your restoration, or side effects from doing a headlight restoration in your finished product. I've had a couple guys say, "Oh, what do I do?" Or they've contacted me and asking me questions about, how do I keep the dust from flying into the light, or why do I have orange peel in the light? It's because you're not keeping a sterile work environment. Once I blow all this stuff away, I even go over it between steps with towels, and in some cases a wet towel, or the towel I use after the Windex stage. I go out, as a rule of thumb, about 3 feet around the headlight, and always make sure to blow out the engine bay. So if there's a gust of wind that you don't even feel, because 9 times out of 10 you won't even feel it. It takes a very light gust of wind to feel it. Anyhow, what I was just saying here is when you're shearing here with the yellow gimbal or your hand tools, you don't want to vigorously go. It builds up a lot of friction too, going right to left or up and down or whatever. And you could scar or burn the headlights. You don't want to add hella pressure. It's very light, very shearing. Look at how much pressure I'm using with my hand. You can tell it's really light. I'm barely putting any pressure onto it, and I'm shearing. Slow, firm, compressed motions. I'm not sitting there going Mach 3. I'm not going back and forth real fast. It's not about that on this step. It's more of like a blending and smoothing and shearing step. Okay, and this right here will get rid of any of those little striations or swirls that you may have left behind from any of the other previous steps. Now this one will definitely do that. This is the 3M 3000 Trizac pad. It is the magic pad, and it's the most expensive pad that you have here, but it's one of the only pads that you can successfully reuse multiple times in comparison to the other pads. This one, literally, you can probably get away with 4 or 5 cars with one of these before you should change it. You don't necessarily have to, but you should change it because it makes your work better and makes your job easier. And using this here with water, just regular tap water, doesn't have to be anything fancy, doesn't have to be spring water or distilled water, nothing like that. It's just here to give it an extra buffer zone and an extra lubricant. And that is what wet sanding does. This is why I don't really wet sand only on this stage, because in my opinion and my expertise and my track record of doing literally well over 1,000 lights at this point successfully, and you see my finished product and clarity and whatnot, wet sanding is a joke, ladies and gentlemen. It should only be used for fine tuning and fine scratch removal. It's using the liquid is like a buffer zone. It's like a lubricant, and you're just wasting your time making things take longer, and you're not getting what is called or referred to as a flash point. When creating headlights, how are they created? Most people don't know. It's with heat. Okay, so the clarity comes through pretty much melted plastic into a mold, the heat. Now, one of the reasons why I get such great clarity is because I dry sand. Wet sand is generally not going to give you that much clarity, and if you ever see anybody who wet sands, it looks the same, looks foggy like this. Because there's no heat or whatnot. But anyways, when I sprayed there with the Windex, as you want to see it there evaporating, you see it dehydrating. It keeps a sterile environment. I recently had a guy who asked about if he could just use soapy water, and I was like, no, you probably shouldn't, because it's not going to leave a sterile environment. It's not going to evaporate the same, and then the soap in itself in the water is going to leave soap residue all through the headlights, and you could miss stuff like that, and stuff like that might be brought back out once you seal it, and then you can get somebody who calls you in a week or later, something's wrong with my headlights, and then you go out there and you'd be like, what the hell is all this white stuff? Because the heat brought out the soap residue underneath the sealant. So you always want to use, if you wanted to use something other than Windex, cut with water or straight Windex, you would want to use alcohol and water, but there's no reason to. The Windex is alcohol based, mixed with a very light detergent, and it's designed not to leave streaks and not to leave residue behind. So it's the perfect catalyst for this, the perfect ideal use for this. Now, anyways, this is the 12-volt, 3-inch AC Delco polisher. Has speeds up to 2,800 RPM. When you hear this going fast, that is how fast it is going, 2,800 RPM. I use the high setting for most parts. Most flat parts, harder to get to parts, I slow it down. But once again, with this, it gives those ratings because it depends on how hard you squeeze the trigger. If you squeeze it all the way back, It's on the high speed, it's 2800. If you're on the low speed and you just barely squeeze it, it can be 100. But anyways, also using the 3M headlight polish here, hard lens headlight polish. It's in the bio. Everybody's curious about that. That's no secret. It's here, and just word of advice again. And I've always said it, and I've always stand by it. I do not get paid for it. I wish I would. That would be awesome. But 3M makes superior products. Let me say that once again so you guys can really soak it in. 3M makes superior products. Okay, for the most part, it's another level of product. Just like how you have, let's say, maybe Chemical Guys is a Camaro, maybe, another brand, meguiars is, a Tesla Plaid or something, something, that's decent. Yes, it's for everyday use, but 3M metaphorically is like an Indy car in comparison. Their products are far superior. Okay, so most of my products, if I can, I use it. If they don't make it, then I don't use it. But if they made it, I would definitely use it. So anyways, if you don't feel like you had enough polish in certain areas, depending on the heat, sometimes things dry up. Depending on the newness of the pad, this is a new pad, so it still has a lot of saturation to go. And these pads do get saturated with the oils and stuff from the headlight polish and lens cleaner. But like I said, once again, all the stuff is in the bio. See that little area back there? You don't really want to mess with it too much. I barely touched it, and that's just to hit a couple little spots, more like a cleaning. Just like to leave those areas a little bit more rougher, just to pretty much let the clear coat adhere better. The clear coat adheres to certain areas better. Okay. Now I use meguiars, and I use Chemical Guys and other things as well for different aspects. I do more than just headlight restoration. Some of their products are more practical for other uses, but even with that said, even though they're more practical, if 3M has something of that level, it's probably on another level. I'm an advocate for 3M products. I don't get paid, once again, for that. But what I'm doing here is pretty much hand buffing and polishing out the little areas, and I'm blowing it with the blower to make sure that it is sterile. Now here is the meguiar spray. This is their crown achievement of anything. I don't understand why a lot of other companies like meguiars or anybody else isn't jumping on this bandwagon. By far, the only way, in my opinion, to do headlight restoration on the upper level end is to use a spray coating. This one is affordable. This one has good longevity, and it is a true headlight spray for headlights, meaning that it does not damage the headlight whatsoever. It adheres to it extremely strong, or strong as possible, without damaging the headlight. And it is removable. Once it dries, or once it hits a certain dry part, a cure part, you can remove this quite easy, way easier than what I just did now. And that's what you want. You want to keep in mind that you're going to have to take this stuff off to do a headlight restoration again someday. It could be 18 months, it could be 3-4 years, depends on how they take care of the vehicle and their patterns, and if it's a garage parker or if it's just sitting in the sun all day. It all depends, but you're going to have to redo it. A lot of people who are doing headlights put stuff on and they have no idea what they're doing, and if these cars ever come back to them, they're going to be kicking themselves in the ass about putting 2K clear on there and all this stuff. It's the worst thing for a headlight, and it doesn't even have as much clarity on it, and it's way more expensive, so I have no idea why they're doing it, and it doesn't last longer. The UV dies in it, and it starts eating up and destroying the light underneath it. This does not have that problem. You see the reflectiveness in there? That is the UV repellent in the headlight. See how beautiful that is? Well, that's my fan. I'm air drying it. Also, you don't want to use a heat gun this or anything like that. Sometimes in the winter, if it's far away, but this stuff literally dries. And I believe this day is about an 80-degree day. In 80 degrees, it will dry in about 60 seconds on the surface. Another 3 minutes will be good enough for this person to drive around and do whatever. Some of those other ones, 2K clears, will take an hour. So it's such a negative point either way. I don't know why people don't use actual products that are designed for headlights. I don't want to use nothing that doesn't say for headlights, because why would you when they exist? But look how beautiful this is. This is the power of my method that I've came up with, and little quirks, little things that I do. This is the quality that I have achieved for a very long time. Please like and subscribe. Let me know if you have any questions. I'd be more than happy to answer them, as I always do.